Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to my channel, The Last Man on the Bench. I am Antonio Smick. I'm your host, and I'm here today to talk about our favorite subject, the New York Mets. What a game last night. Pete Alonso broke the record. He hit the home run, and that's the good part, That's great. It make all of us Mets fans feel great today. But overall, we know that this team is in bad shape. But we still can celebrate Pete, because you can see in the split screen there, you see that blast that he hit last night to break Darryl Strawberry's record. It's a little bit bittersweet for me because Darryl Strawberry is my second favorite Met of all time, behind Doc Gooden. But, records were meant to be broken. I can't believe it was only 252 home runs was the record, but no one ever stays with the Mets that long. They don't want to pay anyone most of the time. Hopefully they'll pay Pete, because there's the same issue that they're having with him right now. Is David Stearns might not want to pay him at the end of the year. But not to dwell on that too long, let's just face the facts. Right now, this team sucks. They really do. And the main reasons why they suck are many. And I'm going to break down what I believe are the top 5 reasons why the Mets suck right now. But I still believe they're going to suck their way to making the playoffs, and then they'll have a chance to win the World Series. My 5th reason, and a lot of y'all might not agree, because and a lot of y'all might, but I'm not sure, because I go back and forth on this. My 5th reason is Juan Soto, the 700 or 800 million dollar man. He came on lately. We can't deny that. He's sorry, I was trying to take a glance at the stats over there, because right now, Juan Soto, since June 1st, as you can see in the split screen, he has a 272 batting average, which isn't that bad compared to what it is overall. And as you can see, he has 46 walks in that time, which I'm quite sure leads the majors for that time, because he leads the majors all year. But the problem, and also he has a 982 OPS during that time period, and that is fantastic. That's fantastic. But, we got to look at what he's been doing all year long with runners in scoring position, and that has got to improve. Because his numbers with runners in scoring positions are atrocious, just like the rest of the Mets pretty much. But Juan Soto is batting under 200 with runners in scoring position, and you can't survive. You can't survive like that. The Mets as a team are betting 236 with runners in scoring position, and Juan Soto, he's so far down on the list of the team leaders, as you can see me flipping through, that he's betting 190, and that's 13th on the team. And only 9 people get to play per day. So there's been some people who hardly ever play that's doing better than the $800 million man when it comes to runners in scoring position. Come on, dude. You're supposed to be easier to hit. The pitcher's under all the pressure with runners on the base, and they just throw up juicy fastballs a lot of times, and he just miss it. And then he's arguing with the umpires incessantly. I used to like that about him when he was on other teams, but when the Mets are losing, just shut up and play. So, but he's coming around. And I defend him when these Yankee fans attack him, but I'm just being honest here about Juan Soto. I think he's the fifth reason why the Mets suck. So he just needs to pick it up and do better. My fourth reason, you guys obviously probably not going to agree with this, is Pete Alonso. Yes, the polar bear who just broke the record. But we got to look at his numbers. Since June 1st, his batting average is 240. And since then, well, he's got 15 home runs, but he's a power hitter. He's going to hit home runs. He's actually 17. He hit 2 more last night. But, you know, and he's got an OPS of 803 in that time period. You know, for a slugger, you need an OPS a little bit higher than that, more like 900. So, you know, he needs to pick it up a little bit too. And from the eye test, you guys, and if you're true Mets fans and you watch the games, you've seen Pete on numerous occasions with the bases loaded, or the base, or people in running and scoring position when it's crunch time, and he strikes out, or he'll take the walk when sometimes he just missed a pitch that was hittable. You know, we need that, especially with everyone else struggling. He needs to take some chances. I mean, I appreciate the walks. I appreciate the small hits, but you know, I need more home runs from him too. You know, he has 28 home runs. He's supposed to be a premier power hitter. There's people with 40-something home runs, and he's only got 28. And that's including the 2 from last night. So we need more from Pete in order for us to do better. And, you know, but I believe in Pete. I believe Pete's about to go on a hot streak here. I believe he really is. I see it in him. And I know Pete can carry a team when he's hot. And when he's hot, that means he's clutch. You know, just like when he hit that ball in Milwaukee, you know, last year in the playoffs. So, I know he probably shouldn't be on this list, but I have to put him up here because of my expectations for Pete were higher than this. You know, and I want him to leave no doubt at the end of the year whether or not David Stearns has to re-sign him. I don't want there to be any doubt whatsoever. And right now, with the borderline numbers, he's leaving a little bit of a doubt. And I would like Pete to stay a Met forever. Reason number 3 are the baby Mets. Yeah, the baby Mets, better known as Francisco Alvarez, Mark Vientos, Brent Beatty, and Ronnie Mauricio, and somewhat Luis Angel Acuna. But Acuna is back and forth to the minors since they brought Mauricio up, and he doesn't really get a lot of playing time. Even though he was Rookie of the Month when they were winning all those games in April, and I don't see how they didn't make playing time for him. It wasn't his. If you notice, his bet and his average and everything dropped once they stopped giving him regular playing time. Once Jeff McNeil came back, they just squeezed Acuna out of the lineup. But, you know, the baby Mets, they aren't living up to their expectations either. You know, they're just not living up to the expectations that were placed on them. That last year they had these, especially like Alvarez from 2 years ago, and Acuna brought it on last year, so I thought he was gonna come on stronger too. Mauricio, we've been hearing about him forever, it seems like. And then he comes up and he shows flashes, but I'm more concerned with Mauricio about his defense. You see, he makes the regular routine plays all the time. And he makes fantastic plays too. But when it's clutch, when they really need him to squeeze that ball in his glove or make that accurate throw, and the game is on the line, he chokes. He's done that several times this year where he's made crucial errors, and I really can't deal with that anymore. So, but also, if you look over to the side there and you look at their stats, what are they betting? What are they betting? The betting average with runners in scoring position, basically for Brent Beatty, is 271, which isn't that bad, but it's Rez is 209. Ronnie Mauricio's batting average of runners in scoring position is 125, and Mark Viento's batting average of runners in scoring position is 157. Now, you telling me that's going to get it done? No, it's not. That is not going to get it done at all under any circumstances. They can feel good about last night all they want. Scored 13 runs. Come on. Give me 5 today, at least. Come on. God gracious. You pay them enough. $300 million payroll. And you notice overall, month with runners in scoring position, Francisco Alvarez, in the month that the Mets have been struggling, in the month of June, he batted 238 with runners in scoring position. Ronnie Mauricio, 224. It's probably a small sample size, so I think that's about the time when he came up. Brent Beatty, 195. Mark Viento's 111. And Luis Angel Acuna, 167. But I don't really consider that because that's when they started reducing his playing time. I think they need to put Acuna back in there, in my personal opinion, because that was when things were a lot better. And then in the month of July, Alvarez, this is when he came back up from that minor league stint, and he was hot for a minute there. And he batted 286 with runners in scoring position. Vientos, 275. Mauricio, 273. Beatty, still struggling, 224. Acuna, in limited action, 214. And that was the month of July, when the Mets, I wouldn't say they turned around. They absolutely kind of sucked, in July too. They were a little bit better than June, but not really. And then in August, let's go back to July for a second. In July, the kids did turn around. But if you look on the list, I'll get back to that later, but if you look on this list to the side, you'll see that the big boppers, they didn't come through in the months of June and July with runners in scoring position. Then, if you look in the month of August, the kids are still turning around. Alvarez, 320 with runners in scoring position. Beatty, 313 with runners in scoring position. Vientos, I don't know, he might be a lost cause. 182 in the month of August. And then Mauricio, 133 in the month of August with runners in scoring position. I don't think Acuna's had any bats with runners in scoring position in the month of August. That's how limited his playing time is. I don't know who he's going to replace, but when they were winning, he was a permanent fixture in that lineup. And since then, they've sucked pretty much. Yeah, but I love my Mets, but you got to get it together. And then let's get to the number 2 reason why the Mets are where they are. Okay? The number 2 reason why the Mets are where they are. And don't give me no crap about what somebody did for us last year. I'm talking about now. I want to know, what can you do for me now? I won a World Series. I'm almost 50. And I don't got much longer, Maybe like another 50 years, but that's not a long time when I consider how fast the first 50 went by. And I want at least one World Series again before I die. When I was 10 years old in 1986, I thought this was going to happen every year. I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. Good gracious, I'm still chasing that feeling forever. So, let's get to this guy. I know I might get some blowback, but Francisco Lindor sucks. He might have had a bunt last night, but you get paid $34 million a year to bunt? Come on. Francisco Lindor is like the anti-Lindor from last year. He was clutch. He was Mr. Everything. I don't know what happened. I think the Mets changed their mind about making him the captain because he sucked so bad. By the time they got to the David Wright jersey retirement, number retirement, Francisco Lindor, since June, he's batting 204. 204 in the month of June. Out the month of June, he's batting 204 since June. And in that time period, since June, he's got 49 hits. 49 hits. June, July. In 2.5 months, he's only got 49 hits in 59 games. Gosh, this doesn't add up. And out of those 49 hits, he's only got 21 extra base hits in 2.5 months. What happened to our hero? He's got 31 RBIs in that time period. He struck out 58 times. We talking about Frankie Lindor here. Oh God, this is like, I don't know what to say. And his OPS since June 1st is abysmal. It's 634. I don't want to berate Frankie, but it is what it is. He's not up to par. He's not up to par. So I can't make this up. I can't make this up. He's not up to par. And his on base percentage is .267. Who it's unheard of that your best player has an under 300 on base percentage. And his slugging, on base plus slugging, is .634. This is insane. And let me look and see if he's doing anything else. He's got 8 stolen bases. That's it. So he's not really doing much else. And I don't know, I didn't look up how many errors he has on defense, but he has, just from me seeing it myself, at least 10 to 15 errors this year. And that's a ton for him. A Gold Glove caliber guy. Come on. Just the other day, he had a lapse where it cost the Mets the game on Sunday against the Brewers. You might not think so, but I value defense a lot. You might say Diaz gave up the home run, the bullpen gave up and let them tie it before that. No. When Lindor made that error in the 5th inning and allowed those first 2 runs to score, that was what pretty much closed the door on that game. That was it. That's what opened the floodgates. And the next thing I know, it was like party time for Milwaukee. So, he's not just not winning with his bat, but he's losing games in the field too. So we need him to become the Frankie Lindor, the MVP candidate that he was last year. If not quite that much, at least be a professional baseball player. His stats are like you insert a minor leaguer into the lineup who just can't handle a major league fastball. This guy's missing fastballs, you know. So he's the number 2 reason why the Mets are doing so bad. Let me see if I got anything else on Frankie, you know, because he's just, you know, I don't know. I don't get it. You know, that's like drastic turnaround. Then you got the number 1 reason why the Mets suck. Starting pitching. That's right. The starting pitching. You know, those guys, they can't give us anything. They can't give us length. They can't be clutch. They are, since June 1st, the entire team has a 4.53 ERA. You know, and overall it's 3.70. So that means, you know, I don't know, they're tired, they're hurt, they're what, but Senga, Peterson, Holmes, all of them. Well, Peterson, I'll kind of give him a little bit of a pass because he's the only one that's actually giving us any length. And as you all know, your bullpen can be as good or as bad as it wants to be, but it's going to be bad if you got to use those guys every day for 4 innings. Nobody goes 6. Nobody. The Mets average 4.8 innings per starter. And I heard somebody on TV the other day saying that this is related to some people came back from injury and that they limiting Clay Holmes. They're not limiting Clay Holmes. He's just sucking. You know, he didn't even get through 5 last night. You know, so I can't say that that's right. Got to try to say Manaya and Senga came back from injury and they were limited, but there wasn't injuries that got them knocked out the game last time. It was them sucking. It was, they got knocked out of the game because they left the game because they were bad. And that game that they won, I think it was against the Giants, I think, on a Sunday, 2 Sundays ago. I think it was the Giants. I'm not sure. Maybe it wasn't. This was during the win streak. I forget. But, yeah, it was the Giants because they won. Yeah, so in that game, Senga only gave up 2 home runs to the same guy, Chapman, but he walked a ton of guys. You know, you can't do that. He walked a ton of guys. He went to a ton of 4 counts. That's the reason why they're not going. That's the reason why they're not going all those innings. That's the reason why. Because they're walking too many people and everything, you know. But the starting pitching, it's going 4.8 innings per start since June 1st. And that's when all this stuff, like the Mets fell off a cliff. You know, 4.8 innings per start. How? You expect your bullpen to survive that? You know, and that picture is showing over there, you can throw Manaya in there because he wasn't back then. But I heard Blackburn's coming back. That's like pouring gasoline on a fire. Because that guy, oh man, I'm glad he didn't die. They heard about a freak accident he got in, and he went to the hospital and found out it was something serious, life-threatening. So I'm glad that he's good with that. But other than that, he sucks. Tyler McGill was actually starting to fall off a cliff before he went out. So, you know, he's coming back, but hopefully he can just eat up some innings and because he would get pounded, but still stay in the game and go 6. So that's what I like about him. Clay Holmes, I don't want to put him in the bullpen because then you got to readjust him again next year. And David Peterson, oh, what can I say about him? He's just been a godsend. He had a few rough starts, but, you know, that's to be expected. But Without him, our bullpen would be dead. Frankie Montas, cut. Get rid of him. Get rid of him. Talking about tipping pitches and all this other stuff. Dude, you just suck. Just let's face the music. Senga, dude, you gotta place that fastball and cutter in the strike zone. You know, I know you're afraid that it's gonna get hit, and then you gotta set it up the ghost fork. You can't just throw the ghost fork, because the ghost fork in and of itself is a ball. The ghost fork dips before it gets to the plate. There's no way it's gonna be called a strike. So you gotta set it up, but those other pitches can't be balls, or either the person's not gonna swing at the ghost fork either, because they gotta be in a position where they need to protect the plate, like 0-2, 1-2, 2-2 counts. That's where the hitter is most vulnerable. So come on, get it together, Kodai. So those are the main reasons. But it's another thing about these starters. They walk the world. I forgot about that. They lead the National League in walks at 426. The only teams you can see from the stat across are the Los Angeles Angels, the Chicago White Sox, and the Oakland Athletics. And where are those teams going? Nowhere. Where are the Mets going? If they keep this up, nowhere. But I'm hoping that they can get to the World Series, But the starters, they gotta give at least 5 1/3 on average, like 5 2/3 or something. Good gracious, I'm just perplexed by this. We need length from the starter pitchers to preserve that bullpen, or either by the time they get to the playoffs, the starting pitch, the bullpen is gonna be so shot that it's over. It's over. So that's those are my reasons why I believe the Mets suck. But all those reasons, except for the main one, which I just said, the starting pitching not giving length and walk in the park, looked good last night, but it didn't look great. But it looked good last night, and it looked good the last 2 games as far as the offense is concerned. But the starting pitching, that was the issue. Manaea went 4 innings, and Cole and Holmes went 3.2, and the last 2 games. So the bullpen has still been killed, even with the day off. It didn't help because they just chewed up. Luckily, last night they got the one person to give them a ton of innings. That one person gave them a ton of innings last night. Hagerman, I think that was his name. I'm not familiar with other people in the bullpen because they use so many, send them up and down. So luckily he gave 4 innings last night to preserve the rest of the bullpen. So you only use like 3 pitchers in the game. But that's not always going to be the case. So I just think the Mets just really need starting pitching. And that's what my gripe is with David Stearns too. Because I don't really just have a problem with the baby Mets themselves, but I got a problem with David Stearns not using 1 or 2 of them to trade for a top flight starting pitcher. I think that would have got it done. But he's planning for future when he's thinking he's not going to re-sign Pete Alonso and all type of other ifs, ands, and stuff. But we got an opportunity to win the World Series this year, and I don't know. I just think it's a logjam there. There's no time in the Mets' future where all these guys are going to get to play on the field because they kind of play the same positions. You know, maybe Acuna can go to the outfield, but Mauricio and Vientos, third base. Lindor's logged at shortstop. Nobody's getting there. So Mauricio's not getting there. Second base, got McNeil on a long-term contract. So him and Acuna can alternate the outfield. But, Alvarez, I don't advocate trading him because he's a power hitting catcher. I'm not giving up on him. But Beatty, I think he's had enough opportunities. I think he's doing pretty good this year. I think, you'd have put him with one of these other ones, we would have got it. So I'm kind of disappointed in management too for not going after some top flight starter. They get more length. You might add more bullpen arms, but that doesn't do any good if you gotta use them every day. So that's my take on the Mets. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, please subscribe, and please share if you think it's entertaining in any way, shape, or form. And also, please subscribe and comment below what you believe was the big money play of the game yesterday on August 12th, 2025, New York Mets versus Braves. What was the Mets' big money play of the game? And anybody who guesses it right, what the big money play of the game was, will be, and subscribe, will be entered into a drawing to win $20, which I will cash app to you once I do the drawing. So please subscribe and comment below about your big money play of the game, or my big money play of the game, what you believe it is. Okay? So, with all that said, peace, and I'll see you next time. And I promise not to disappear for months this time. I'll be back, possibly tomorrow, no later than the next day. And look out for my shorts telling you who's the winner of the big money play contest. All right. Nice talking to you.